You're recognized for 11 minutes.
Thank you.
7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr.
7,
Chairman.
11.
I'll take whatever I can get here.
7.
Secretary Collins, first of all, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your service to our country. I represent the Buffalo-Niagara region in New York, home of the Western New York VA system, including the Buffalo VA Medical Center and one of the nation's 2 GI Bill processing centers. During my time in office, I've had the privilege of meeting with many VA employees, often veterans themselves, who take immense pride in continuing their service to support their fellow veterans. Unfortunately, in these meetings, VA staff at every level have raised serious concerns, including plummeting morale and an increased stress due to the threat of sudden firings and what they feel is a climate of fear, PTSD and mental health strains stemming from constant job insecurity, the rollback of collective bargaining rights and attempts to strip employees of their voice, rigid and poorly thought out return to office mandates without adequate infrastructure or workspace to carry out mission critical duties, and worsening understaffing, which is leaving teams stretched even thinner than they were to begin with. And that list doesn't stop there. Those are just a few. The issues demand urgent attention from you and your team. Mr. Secretary, your testimony claims improvements to veterans' care, yet you're eliminating positions essential to handling the increased PACT Act cases. Cutting these roles removed skilled, experienced staff who directly assist our veterans. Outside consultants and political appointees obviously cannot do this work. Neither can AI. VA employees in my district work tirelessly to deliver care and benefits. They're not faceless bureaucrats. They're honoring our promise to our veterans. And your testimony states that VA aims to place employees where they're needed, reduce unnecessary overhead, and strategically cut staff. Now, I've asked this question repeatedly of this administration, still haven't received a clear answer. How do you plan to reduce staff without affecting care? Who exactly are you planning to let go? What are their roles? What qualifies as unnecessary overhead? And what safeguards are in place to ensure that these cuts don't further strain an already short-staffed system or reduce access to vital services for our veterans?
Congressman, I appreciate the thoughtfulness of the question and the overall expansiveness of it. Let me just answer in the best way possible, as I've said before, and I've made several comments already on concerning consolidation. We've seen areas of work, that being payroll and our HR systems, those kind of things. The people that you're speaking to who actually handle disability claims, who actually move forward these processes, are not the people that are involved. In fact, we've exempted 300,000 plus positions to make sure that those are actually the positions we need, that we're going to keep, and that we're hiring. And right now, in any one time, we look at this and going forward, and there's been something that's been said a couple of times, and I want to address it here. There's no, especially going forward in our look at our reorganization process, there's no such thing as a sudden firing, because this is a process that is going through, and as we get to the level of where we are able to see, here's what our structure looks like, here's how we're trying to look at this, and here's how we're going to be maybe rolling this out. There's going to be the notice to the employees, there's going to be notice as we go forward in this. So it's not an issue of sudden firings. I would hope that that would get through to especially our employees who are on front lines, that again, they're not part of what we're looking at, especially in the duplicative services. In looking at this, and I do have one other question, if you don't mind for just a second. I appreciate the question, and I want to be able to answer it. The adequate office space.
You got to move quick. I have more, please.
No, I will. One last thing, adequate office space issue. Anybody that's brought back from our work processes that are not in spaces that fulfill their duty, the supervisor in that position is not fulfilling the role, because it is stated clearly that no one is to be brought back into a position in which they're not able to do their job. So if that is happening, then we'll hold supervisors accountable and make sure that's happening. They're not going to be able to. I hope that answers.
The consolidation of space, I will just say, when it comes especially to dealing with our veterans and mental health services, when you are in confined spaces and you have practitioners that are providing those services, oftentimes via a virtual space, that is a problem when they're in a consolidated space. These veterans are not feeling comfortable sharing privileged, confidential, very personal information. So that is something that has to be dealt with. But I want to also go back because, look, we've heard from so many different veterans that are concerned. I want to just clarify, you know, in the first week of this administration, there were cuts. There was 1,000 cuts at first, then another 1,400. Then there was your memo talking about going back to pre-pandemic 2019 levels. I know you've discussed this, was just a goal. 83,000 people would be cut. That is all concerning, all pre-PACT Act as well, when those people were hired specifically to deal with our veterans that have had these horrific injuries fighting for our country. So I think there needs to be a consistent message. I'm very concerned. I know our veterans are worried, they're fearful, and those that are employees as well. And Mr. Secretary, you talk about over in the Senate, those service-disabled veterans that are waiting to be approved by the Senate. There are service-disabled veterans that have served this country and are serving in the hospitals and the VA system today that are getting cut and are losing their jobs because of this administration that is not treating them with the dignity and the respect that they have earned and they deserve. You visited multiple VA facilities, Mr. Secretary, and spoken with non-healthcare staff like VBA employees, electricians, maintenance workers. I know we discussed this earlier today. You know, I think we agree these roles face similar challenges across the country. So why did the Milwaukee VA preserve these collective bargaining rights for nurses and facility workers while employees in the Buffalo VA and Buffalo VBA lost theirs, even though their job functions are identical? And I will just say that the clear difference to me is that there is union affiliation, and it seems like retaliation. The Buffalo VA employees are represented by 3 different unions that have filed lawsuits. You know, can you please elaborate and discuss how these determinations were made?
I think from that perspective, and I'll be very simple here because it's going through a process right now of legal issues as well, as they were made following the EO from the president to go forward on this, and we're following that. And of course, are going through any of the issues that are currently under litigation.
Mr. Ciscomani.